André Houdet, welcome back to the Process Podcast, my friend. How you doing?
Very good. Thanks for having me. Excited to be back.
You are wearing a slightly different hat this time round on the podcast than you were last time. Could you tell us a little bit about what has happened since you were last on the podcast versus now?
I can't remember exactly when I was on the podcast last time, but the main thing that's different is that I was an active athlete pursuing the CrossFit Games with full gas, no breaks. And since the CrossFit Games this year, where I went team with NoShortcuts CrossFit, my affiliate, I have decided to hang up my Metcons and move on to the next chapter of my career, which is coaching, which is something that's been going on um, side like at the same time as my athletic career since 2014. And after almost a decade of pursuing elite fitness and also coaching on the side, I'm excited to now having passed on to the next chapter, which is full-time coaching and full-time dad and fiance and all of those other roles. So it's been a great transition. Had a good last season. The last 4 years has been successful for me as an athlete with 4 CrossFit Games qualifications, 2 individual and 2 team. And I think there's always gonna be the question if there's more in me. And I think once I realized that the fire in me will never stop, it was okay to move on because the fire just needs to be on something else. And so even though I still have the fire to compete and to do, I still have the fire basically just to wanting to win, but it doesn't have to be in CrossFit competitions anymore. Now it's on the coaching side of things.
What was a catalyst? What was the final thing that made you make that decision to change?
I think like becoming a parent was one of them. I realized that the way I am is very like black and white. If I compete, is to try to win. And I'm also very, I think, realistic in regards to what it takes to win. And so the person that I would need to be in order to win wasn't a person that I was necessarily fired up to be, because that type of person needs to be very selfish, not in like a super bad way, just in a, you're just like ultra focused on, like, I'd finished 15th at the CrossFit Games individually, and I knew if I wanted to make the jump to top 10, maybe even to top 5, I would need to give more. Like, you can't give the same every year and expect better results. You have to fine tune a lot of things. And even if it's small things, it's still things that, if you already feel that you're 100% dialed in and you have to add even more to that plate. Of course, when you make one decision, you also make a decision to not do something else. And I didn't have the feeling that I could keep making more decisions taking me away from other things, such as my family. Like, my daughter's 1.5 years old. She goes to kindergarten from like, or nursery, from whatever, 8:30 in the morning to 3 p.m. She comes home at 3 p.m. and she goes to bed around 6 p.m. So if I didn't have time to spend time with her from 3 to 6 p.m. because I was working out or something else, that wasn't a sacrifice I was willing to do. Then maybe I could train later at the night. But at the same time, we also have a company that I'm extremely passionate about and I absolutely love, and that requires a lot of my attention. And I've been living a life for a long time that was just, getting up 5 a.m. in the morning, not sleeping so well at night, working out, 4 or 5 hours a day, and working every other hour of that day, and then trying to balance family life and relationship and a lot of other things. And to go the next step in the career, because I never wanted to get the same. Didn't want to go get another CrossFit Games, you know, top 15 or below that. I wanted to get, above that. And the requirements to do so, I think at the end of the day, I just decided I wasn't willing to make those sacrifices anymore. And despite having the fire to win, I think I also just realized that that fire to win is something that I've just always had and always will have. And I've also always just challenged it into something. And it's been CrossFit competitions for me for the past decade. And now it's going to be coaching. It's going to be giving my all to make the athletes that I'm fortunate to work with, try to make them win. and at the same time having a lot more time for my family. So I think the catalyst was just I was no longer willing to sacrifice what it takes to get to the next level, and and big part of what I do, why I do it, is to beat who I was. And so it's not so much about like only the placements on the leaderboard, because that's very like outcome based. But for me to become like Andre 2.0, the requirements to do so in athletics, I wasn't willing to sacrifice that time away from my family, because yeah, my priority list is definitely family number one. And I think a lot of people say that, and a lot of people have no issues with prioritizing other stuff. And I'm not here to judge it all, but I just know I wasn't willing to do that at this given point. I still work out every day and I still love it and still push myself, but it's no longer to try to be one of the fittest on earth.
How hard was it making that decision?
It actually wasn't hard at all.
Hmm.
Honestly, I don't think I've ever identified myself as a CrossFitter. Like that's part of my identity. It's part of what I absolutely love. But I think, I've always been quite good at separating myself from my craft, regardless of what it is. Andre as a coach or Andre as a dad, or and I think, yeah, it just felt like it was the right time. I also always wanted to stop on my own terms, and I didn't want something else to make that decision from me. And with athletics, there's a lot of things that can happen every season and every year. And I was not willing to make the sacrifices for 1 year for that potentially to be taken from me. So I felt like it was a pretty easy decision. Like seeing the time I would miss from being with my family. I mean, that was just enough to make that decision pretty quickly. And at the same time, I also uh, have the opportunity to coach a lot of really great athletes. And one of the struggles was that every time the season begins, my work doubles because everyone needs a lot of attention and a lot of help, of course, just like I myself would need. Problem is, I empty my cup to help everyone else but myself. And this has been happening the last couple of years. And then I stand in the end and I haven't even thought of myself and what my game plan will be, but I've been so busy trying to help other people succeed. And that's because of who I am. I love helping others, and that's just something instinctively that I have. But it's a quite big weakness as an athlete to be very, very passionate about helping others, because you have to really prioritize yourself. And I think that yeah, it's just been like when the season starts and I'm helping everyone else and I forget to help myself, then I just don't get a lot of fulfillment from then. I don't feel I've gone all in for myself. And if I don't go all in, then I'm not as stoic and confident on the competition floor. And even though it's still been going well and I've still been able to pull it through, I know to unlock that next level, like that is not gonna be an opportunity anymore. That's not a possibility. Like to really kill it, I need to be 100% all in on my own career, and that would require me to maybe close the company, and that's also not an opportunity, and also not something I wanted to do because I absolutely love it. So I just think it just came to the point where it's like, okay, make a decision. Like you finished fifth at the CrossFit Games with your team, you won the European semifinals, you had five athlete or three individuals qualify for the CrossFit Games out of Europe, one Masters, like 14 people at the semifinals individually, and or sorry, 14 in total with the team athletes. And I still wasn't that satisfied because I hadn't gone all in on either of them. The question was, could we have done even better as a team if I had been even more focused, or could my individual athletes have been even better if I'd been even more focused on them? And I don't like that what if question. So I just decided, okay, it's gonna be either or. And I was very happy with the past 10 years of competing, and yeah, and I only have good memories. I also want to stop it like that.
I think that that ability to separate self from the titles is probably what holds so many people back from change in any aspect of their lives. So,
Mm.
okay, let me ask you now. So when people ask you, who are you? How do you respond?
Um, I think it's like threefolded, from the different roles I have in my life. But I think the first thing I would say is that I'm a dad and a fiance, brother, a son. Those are the roles that are most important to me. So those are the roles I prioritize the most. So I think I would mention them first because they do come first. My family needs me, I drop whatever I have in my hands and I go. If my daughter comes home from kindergarten or from nursery, like I stop working. And I will continue working if I need to in the evening when she goes to bed. So I think like those things from like a role perspective. And then my second role is I'm a coach. I wouldn't consider myself an athlete because for me, an athlete has always been somebody who's that's like your profession. You're living off that and you're pursuing that, and that's no longer what I'm pursuing. So I would say I'm athlete is not part of my identity anymore. Even though I'm athletic and even though I pursue becoming fit and very athletic, this is not part of my identity. I would say being a healthy human being that uses training to make him a better person and to give energy and to yeah for the reasons that I think anybody who goes to a regular gym has. They they know it's an important part of their life and it gives them a lot of stuff, and it's the same for me. And I think as a person, if not just very like value driven, very stand by his word kind of person. And sometimes that's it's a good thing for most things, but like I've said on the podcast before, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And sometimes with having goals that are outside of my control, luckily they have worked out in the past. But so yeah, I think the best way to answer that question would be to get 5 people that spend more time around me and let them answer that question. It's a tough question to answer yourself.
I'm laughing thinking about you in a lift, and then someone walks into the lift and it's like, oh hey, I'm John. What's your name and and who are you? And then you go on a 10-minute tangent about all of that. Anyway, I asked the
Thanks.
question because I think about it a lot. And it's like when I get
Okay.
asked, who are you and what do you do? Or remove the second part of that question, who are you? I'm like, my mind goes into, 100 different answers, and I'm like, I'm consciously trying to answer that question without the titles, without like the job
Mm,
responsibilities, without like the thing that I'm doing at that moment in time.
mm,
And I'm trying to dig a little bit deeper to be like, who is Ed actually at the core of all of it,
mm.
regardless of what he's doing? And I'm always interested to hear if others are on that similar journey, trying to think about that question. But yeah,
I do a lot, and I have over the years, and I think it's an essential question to ask yourself because I think like all of today's anxiety and depressions and stuff like that it kind of stems from that. Uh, I remember when I was younger, somebody asked me like, "Oh, what kind of music do you like?" And at this point, I was like obsessed with American football. Like that was the only thing I could think of day and night. And I just couldn't answer that question. I was like, "Oh, what's your favorite color?" What? I don't know. And I couldn't answer any of the questions. I just thought, damn, like I have no clue what I like to do other than play American football. And I think it's like it's an important question to know. Like, who are you? What do you like? Yeah, I think that's an important thing to figure out.
all right. Well, maybe this one's a bit easier for you. Who is No Shortcuts?
No Shortcuts is a brand. It's a lifestyle that also provides training programs, but it's first and foremost a brand. It's a culture and it's something that you live by. It's as the brand name, similar to your training program, the process. We wanted to have a brand name that was something you could live by and something that had meaning and something that resonated with people, and I mean, it's something that resonated with me, of course, and why the brand name became this instead of Andre training, or something like that, or Vikings training, or whatever it might be. And I think no shortcuts is taking the hard way. It's life happens when you do things that are difficult, and I think everyone should be doing something difficult every day. I think if we're not met with obstacles to some degree, and these are mostly voluntarily things. It's stuff that you choose yourself. It can be a cold shower in the morning, or making your bed, or going for that session even if you're tired, or waking up a little bit earlier, eating a little bit better, doing your journal, preparing you back for tomorrow. It doesn't really matter. It's it's doing things that are hard, because then you know that those things are what will make you better. Um, and I think once you start doing that, you become a better person. You become a stronger person, and you're going to be a person that can be there for yourself and for other people when you or they need you. Um, and then we provide training programs, and we provide training programs for CrossFitters at all levels. It's for the beginner to the CrossFit Games athlete who aspires to be better in CrossFit. And that can be with competition aspirations, or it can be with just wanting to get fit for life. And we have individualized programming for those who need a program that's a bit more tailored to their schedule and their needs. And then we have 3 generic programs that vary in time. So if you have 1 hour to train, we have a program for that. If you have about 90 to 120 minutes, we have a program for that. And if you have time for 2 sessions a day, we have a program for that. And then recently, we launched an affiliate programming, so kind of making that full circle of, from you start CrossFit and you join the affiliate, we have something for that, to, hey, I want to have a little bit more, or I can't make it to the classes and I want to do another program, to, I need something that's tailored to my schedule because I'm busy, or I have these specific goals and dreams. And yeah, so that's like the services we have. And we run training camps for our community, and we're trying to do a lot of things that can bring our community better. We have mostly an online community, and the goal is that we have a little bit more in-person community through events, camps, maybe through gyms one day, or whatever it might be. So yeah.
Love it. Can I ask you, why did you not just be Andre Houdet training? Like, why didn't you just make it you, the coach, serving your athletes? And why did you go down this route, the same route, I guess, that I went down, and actually create an organization, something that was going to be more than you?
I think people create companies when they feel there's something missing, when there's a problem that isn't solved. And I hadn't had a coach for like 3 4 years, the last 3 4 years, because I couldn't find somebody who could match the expectations or the things that I wanted. So I start coaching myself. And when I start doing that, I realized that maybe other people also thought that something was missing. And we hope to be that missing link, or at least we give our take on what a training program or coaching needs to be or look like. It's not at all that we are better or right or wrong, but if we wanted to give our twist on it. And I think, all entrepreneurs today, they start because they see a problem and they want to create a solution. And like I said in the beginning, I like to help others, and I can only help very few others if it was just me. And my name is not something people can resonate with. They can resonate with my story, but even bigger, they can resonate with a brand, with something that everybody understands, and that has a meaning for themselves. And I think no shortcuts is just, it's a bigger than a person. And it's not that we've wanted to build a monster company with thousands and thousands of clients. We just wanted to make sure that we can help more people. And I think, like with anyone, you need to become something more. You can't just be be you. Like you have to do something that steps away from who you are and more that just targets a like say like an ethos or something that just is bigger than a person. It's an idea, it's a philosophy, and so I think that's the main reason. And I always loved trying to be a leader of a group. Always when I did sports, I always used to be the captain of the teams, and I always liked being in that role. And so I also always had the dream to build a cool team and have people work with me, not for me, but with me. And that also just required something that was bigger than just myself.
I love it. I think a lot of people listening are going to just hear, they're going to see that there was this guy who's really good at CrossFit, competed as an athlete, and then he decided to just hang up his Metcons and just start a business. And now he's really successful. I think when I first heard about you, you actually weren't the CrossFitter that everyone now knows. You hadn't made it to the CrossFit Games. When I first came across you, because we had the same coach, and we'd had a lot of people that had crossed paths between us. You know, I had coaches join my gym who'd been a part of the gym that you were working at in the Middle East in Dubai. And you were actually, I saw you as another coach like myself who was working really hard, serving a lot of people in the gym that you were working in, and you just happen to be really good at CrossFit on the side, much better than me. And you then decided to, channel more of your energy into, this is my take, so correct me if I'm wrong. You then make the decision to channel more of your energy into the athlete Andre, to the point where you almost go all in, and then suddenly, the progression you made in a really short amount of time when you kind of went all in, was just pretty amazing to see from the outside. And the reason I'm telling this story is because there was an Andre the coach who existed a long time ago, who has always been working hard, who has always been thinking outside the box, and I think dedicating himself to the craft more than most coaches in the industry. So for me, it's no coincidence that you're in this position now, doing what you do, doing an amazing job with it. But I would love for you to kind of just walk us through what your coaching career has looked like. Everyone knows about Andre the athlete, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about Andre the coach. Where did it start, and how did you get from where you started to where you're at now?
So it happened simultaneously, like maybe a month apart. The athlete started in like January 2014, and in like a few months after I start coaching. So it always been like a part of me that had been going simultaneously. So when I finished school, we have a tradition. I'm half French and I live in Denmark. And when I finished school, my dad, he said, pack your stuff. We're going to drive to Paris. I'm going to drop you off and you're going to live there for a year, learn French, learn about the French culture, because I'm also a French citizen. But my parents, long story short, have been super busy and never really had the time to really teach me too much French. So this is just a family tradition. It's like a boys to men trip. You just get dropped off and they just tell you to figure it out. And anyways, I figured it out because I love CrossFit and I knew I wanted to train in a CrossFit gym. In France, you need to have an education that takes 1 year in order to coach in a CrossFit gym. So I wasn't able to get a job there. Eventually, I convinced them that I should have an assistant coach role. Also because I could no longer afford the membership, even though I worked at a restaurant 6-7 hours a day, or 8 hours a day, actually 6 days a week, and I couldn't afford the membership anymore. And so they offered me I could be an assistant coach, and that's kind of how it started. I'd taken my L1, and I'd really discovered that I loved that part. And even though I was a terrible coach and I didn't have the tools, I really enjoyed the process of trying to help others with the same things I've been trying to help myself with. And things like took off. I They offered me to stay and take the coach's education, but I couldn't afford to stay without getting paid basically for a year while I took the education. So eventually I didn't have any money left. I had maxed out my credit card, not on anything fancy, just on canned food from Carrefour, because that was the only stuff I could afford. And I said to my parents, I'm coming home now. I'd been there for 10 months now. I had used my whole children's savings account. My bank account was maxed out. And again, like I had done zero. I had just tried to survive in Paris, but it's a very expensive city and the salaries are like 1/3 or 1/4 of what you get in the supermarket in Denmark. So eventually I went home and I started training, of course, like I'd done in the past, but I didn't need to work as much. So I started coaching. I could get a coaching job there because in Denmark you don't need the education other than the L1. And I had picked up some really good experience from this gym called Reebok CrossFit Louvre in Paris, which is a phenomenal gym with very high level coaching and extremely high standards, some of the highest standards I've ever seen. And so I learned a lot there, which I was very grateful for. And that always serves as I think that the first step in my career as an athlete and as a coach. And I then moved back to Copenhagen. I started coaching in pretty much the largest affiliate chain in the world called CrossFit Copenhagen at the time. They had, I think, 24 affiliates across our little country. And I quickly got an opportunity to be taking care of half the training programs inside of this affiliate chain. So they had like the WOD, they had big WOD, endurance, team classes, elite classes. And I was programming for half of them, even though I didn't have a lot of experience, but they gave me the opportunity and I was a hard worker and I was willing to take up the challenge. And so I did that for some time and really loved the programming side. I was coaching maybe 15 hours a week, so nothing like too crazy. There was also weren't that many hours available, but so I was having like 15 hours and I was training pretty much the rest of those hours of the day. And I was pretty much just living in the gym together with two other dudes who also wanted to go all in on CrossFit. And then I was on a lot of training camps and I did those A to become a better athlete, but B also to get more coaching tools. I met some coaches or athletes there that were coaches in Dubai and they offered me a job there. So I moved to Dubai as there was a better like coaching opportunity because in Denmark coaching was very much looked at like as a part-time job that you did while you were studying. And that just didn't align with my dreams and aspirations with that. And even though I had no problem going against the stream and making it for myself, I knew that at that point in my career I was still like little Andre and no experience and not a lot of confidence in coaching. And this opportunity in Dubai gave me the possibility to work like 30 plus hours a week and just get my hands on a lot of experience and be around some great athletes and great coaches and entrepreneurs. And so I moved there together with my fiance and we worked there for 3 years, picking up a lot of experience. You know, we tried to run a podcast for 3 years. I managed to get like a lot of individualized coaching, both online and in person, picked up a lot of experience at the same time as I was training. Those were definitely like some of the years where I worked the hardest ever because like if you met after 6 a.m. in that gym, like you were laughed at by the other coaches. Like everybody was there before 6 a.m. and everybody left at, late evening. And that was just the culture. Everybody was training hard, everybody was working hard. And so in the end, you just became numb to it. You didn't even realize it because it was just so normal. But after 3 years, I knew that eventually my dreams were to start my own company because I've always been very entrepreneurial. And an important part of the story that I forgot to mention is that in 2015, I also founded my first programming company together with my fiance, who was also my business partner in NoShortcuts, and another person at the time. We started a programming company called Trinity, which offered individualized coaching. It was like a training in Trinity, classic, very creative. And that went really well. We had like, I think alone, I had over 20 individualized clients at that time. And I had only done like one CrossFit competition on a team. So I didn't, somehow people were convinced that I could help them. And it was also very cheap. It was like 50 euros per month. But I really enjoyed that. And But when I moved to Dubai, they asked me to kind of close that company because I had to be all in on this new project at Inner Fight in Dubai, and I was fine with that. I just start doing individualized coaching through their company instead with similar clientele. Um, Anyways, I wanted to start my own company again, and I had enjoyed being mentored by some smart people and gained a lot of experience over the years. But I wanted to move back to my family eventually also. I think people that are from Denmark, I mean, it's a wonderful country, and it's also, I think, ranked as one of the top countries to live in the whole world. And there's a good reason. It's an amazing welfare system and just a great country. And my family were there, and I always knew that I was going to come back to them. That was always the plan. So as the individualized coaching was kind of taking off, I knew there was an opportunity to just continue that and move back to Denmark. And so I did that in 2020 together with my fiance after 3 good years in Dubai. And we decided that, Trinity was kind of in the past and we wanted to create a new brand. And one day, No Shortcuts just kind of came to life, and it was still focused on individualized coaching. But as we had like a large amount of inquiries, we decided to open up for a generic training program. And so here we are today, like 3 years after, and we have built a good company. I would say it's still very early stages. We're 3 years in that process, and we have learned a lot. I definitely think not just from a coach's standpoint, but also from like running a business, which I had no clue and I'm still very novice in. And but at this point, we have two coaches working with me under the brand. We have one person who takes care of all the back office. We have one person that's in charge of like athlete care, which is customer service. We have an art director who's responsible for the creatives, the visual identity of the brand. We have a marketer who works kind of part-time for us. And so we've built a good team now that allows for me to focus on what I'm good at, which is or what I am trying to be good at, which is the coaching side and like leading the company in the right direction. And yeah, I think it's still very early stages for us. So I'm looking forward to see what the future brings. We're building it just like you would build an athletic career, just one step at a time, one session at a time. And yeah, we're looking forward to that. And I'm definitely challenging every ounce of athletic energy and passion and competitiveness into this. And that's really nice because you can be just as competitive in this side of things that you can be with the athletics.
Yeah, I think when hearing that, there's a lot of work that went in to you being able to be in a position that you're in today to actually start a company and be successful with it, right? There's been, you flew across the world, you traveled in different countries, you've taken lots of different opportunities to coach, even if it meant no money. You had clear goals in terms of wanting to develop yourself and get more experience, and you've kind of always gone after it and done it. And I think it's important because I feel that it is this pipe dream for a lot of coaches, especially in the CrossFit space, where you start in a CrossFit gym coaching classes, and then we create this idea that we were eventually going to evolve to being coaching individuals, and then we're either opening up our own gym and running our own business, or we're sitting on the beach on Bali and we're coaching people behind a laptop making loads of money, right? This is kind of like natural evolution that we see
Yeah.
coaches going down. And I think in hearing stories of people who are now chasing their dreams and have evolved past or through that phase, what actually has to go into allowing you to do that now.
Yeah. You want to hear what it took, or is that a question?
No, it's just more of
Yeah.
a statement and observation. But if you have anything to add,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think the one thing I'm very clear on, and I think a lot of people that think our company is massive, is like I've heard comments of people who thinks that it's not me who's doing the programming anymore. And I just want to make it clear that my ambition is never to lay on a beach in Bali and do remote coaching. I always want to, like, the product is something I love to do and will always be me who will be the person who makes the programming and the base of it, and that will never change. And and my vision with this really just I because I think like everybody has that dream of being an online coach or being a coach in general and living off it. And I wanted to create that opportunity where I could do that, but also with a team around me. Like I sit in this office and we have like 2 days a week where we have the whole team here. And that is just really cool. When you sit there and you work with colleagues and you also get to like work on training camps together. So we have this like perfect balance between we do in person and we also do, the off side of things what you need because you need to study, you need to write the designs and I'm really passionate about that side of things and having people with me on the project because I think if people love CrossFit, they often love it because of the community aspect. And I think also from a coaching side, we also want to have a community aspect. It's like you have colleagues you hang out with, you have meetings with. It's not it can easily become very lonely process, I feel. Like how often you sit down with, other coaches from the gym and just spend a full day discussing energy system and try to come up with new protocols together or brainstorm different scenarios. Like if you're coach, I mean, I love that side of things and just being able to do that here in the office with some of the other coaches. In fact, like one of my coaches, he's standing in the other room right now waiting to come in here and we're gonna do that all day today. And that yeah, that's for me is like the success of or the ambition of the company to be able to do those kind of things.
How's it been for you stepping into the new role of being someone who is managing and leading people in a business?
Good. Um, yeah, I like it. I've had not those roles in business prior, but like in other sports like American football, I've always been like captain or speaking captain, which is the person that makes a lot of the decisions and and also with the team this year that we did also was sort of a captain for that team and did the programming for all the athletes and we're the one who kind of did all the management in terms of the trips and the organization and the planning and I like that role. Maybe because I don't trust too many other people to take care of that and I've been disappointed a lot of times in the past. I don't know if it stems from that, but and maybe that's also why I wanted to run my own company because I've had a lot of disappointments and in the past and I just I really struggle to handle when people don't meet the standards that I set for myself. And it's not that I set those standards for the team, but I know that I'm responsible in the end. And I like when it's me who is held responsible and not someone else. So I think it's just been very natural. And I'm not saying I'm a great leader. I'm trying to learn how to navigate that space and there's definitely a lot to learn. Luckily, there's a lot of books that you can read about that. And my sister's psychologist, so she also helps me on how to navigate like certain work situations and how to deliver certain information to the different people we have in the team because they respond to different things. Some wants it black and white, some needs a different way of handling it. And yeah, I really like that challenge. I mean, I love being challenged. So, like I said, now that I'm not an athlete anymore, I'm not pushing snatch 350 pounds or whatever. I'm challenging myself to become better at leading other people, and it's definitely a learning curve. But I think if you're a coach for others, it probably becomes a bit more natural because if you coach classes or you coach individuals, you are sort of a leader for them to some extent, or that's at least how I look at it. Some people might look at it different from a coach's perspective, but if somebody hires me to coach them, it's to lead them, and it's not to. Of course, we have a lot of like discussions back and forth, but at the end of the day, I'm hired to because they don't have the answers and they need me to give them the answers, and I need to lead the way for them. So I see that as a leader role as well. So yeah, I like that role.
Love it. You built a pretty amazing facility. I mean, you're kind of in your home right now. We
Yeah,
talked about it before. I mean, I've seen the evolution of this gym on social media over the last few years. I remember like you building the roof and the framework, and then suddenly there was a rig in there. And then now there's like two parts to the gym. Now you're sitting in a beautiful office and your home is kind of right next door. It's on this plot of land where you got like these three buildings and it's your athlete accommodation as well. That's awesome. But what's it like? What's it like living and working in the same space? How's that been for you?
that's great. Time efficient. Like like I said, it's like half the house or the property is like private and the other half is business. And there's when I open the door to the office, it's I'm at work, and then when I close that door, I'm not at work anymore. And I needed that balance because once it was in the living room that I was working, there it was difficult to switch off. Then I was always on. I was never on and off. It was on all the time. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs and people who love what they do, that is the biggest challenge. But at the same time, when you have a lot of ambition and you don't have a lot of time, you need to set up the best case scenario for limiting things that cost time. And for me, that was transportation to work. Now I can walk 10 meters and I'm at work. And that allows me to maximize the time at work and as well as maximize the time with the family and with my own training and with a lot of stuff. So for me, it's fantastic. And we, in today's modern life, it's always very busy and hectic. And I live in the middle of the countryside. I only have like kilometers worth of fields around my house. And I think even though it's an hour from the city, and so the coaches or the rest of the team that comes, they have to drive an hour. They also really enjoy it because it takes them away from the busyness of the city and it gives them this calm space where they can. I think it's necessary if you want to be really creative or really focused. You need to have a calm space, and that's just what I needed athletically. The minute I moved away from the drama and the busy gyms and all that stuff, and I could just hone in on the training aspect, and I just saw the results from it. And that's also why we host a lot of the training camps here and not in other busy places. It's because out here there's zero distractions. The athletes they're just here for one thing, and it's to get better. And and I think it's just the same for the company. Like the more I'm diving into the business side of things, the more I just realize it's just everything carries over from the athletics. It's probably also why I think it's so important that kids they do sports. It's not about the sport itself, but it's about the process of working hard to get something and trying to win because life is about winning. It just is. It's if you don't do well in school, you don't get into the education you want. You have to beat somebody else to get there. If you don't do well in university, you're not going to get the job. Somebody else is going to get the job. A lot of your opportunities, they come from pushing yourself hard to get what you want. And I think that's it's the exact same in business and in what we do. So yeah.
It's really refreshing to hear the mindset that you had as an athlete is exactly the same as the mindset you currently have as a coach and a businessman. And I think maybe that's something you got to throw into your elevator pitch as to who Andre is. This relentlessness to grow and improve and commit yourself to the one thing, whatever that thing is. What is the future plans for the business and you, Andre? What have you got in the pipeline?
Um, the first thing I promised myself this year was to not put too many things in the pipeline because I don't want to risk doing something not as good as I could. Because that's the exact reason why I decided to go all in on what I'm doing now and not on 10 other things. So I think that the first step was just, make sure we have a healthy organization and that the team we have love what they do and we create the opportunities that they need to get better and that they want to do. So if we have a coach that wish to operate a gym, well, cool. If that's your vision, let's help you there. If we have a coach that wish to run more training camps, then let's help you get there. And I think so. The first thing is just making sure we have the infrastructure from a team perspective, from the processes inside of the company. Like, I used to do all the paperwork and invoices, and I'm terrible at it. And so, like, we have a lot of really good processes set in place now. We're trying to build a team, making sure everybody's happy, everybody's successful, doing good, everybody's getting, their cup full of what they need. And that's the number one goal. We can't do anything without a great team. Team is number one always. So depending on where the team is heading and where the company's like the team is basically to determine where the company can head to some extent. And so we've been putting a lot of focus on just making sure that we have the right people and the right things for them. But from a business perspective, right now the plan is just we've launched affiliate programming, which is a big passion of ours and something I really enjoy doing. It's for free for a full year. And so any gym can pretty much access that and check it out. And that takes a lot of time to design. So that's kind of like one of the new things because we wanted to make sure we had that full circle and the affiliates were the only missing link. It's the beginners or people who are doing it for not competitive reasons, but for health reasons, similar to what I'm doing now. And I'm actually doing the program every day myself. Um, but expansion wise, there's no like big expansions plans on the map for 224. Right now, the goal is just to keep improving the service, keep improving the customer service, the programming, and making sure that all the athletes that we're fortunate to work with, they can achieve their dreams. And that's a big work because as a coach, you have to push yourself to learn new things all the time, to better the delivery, to have more tools in everything from the physiological standpoint to the psychological standpoint, having, and that takes a lot of work. I think a lot of people underestimate, like, you want to be able to say the right things at the right time. That comes with a lot of preparation. And so a lot of the things they're focused on that. And that's it for now. And in the future, depending on the growth, perhaps we'll open a NoShortcuts CrossFit gym inside of Copenhagen. That could happen. It depends on a lot of things, on the team, their ambitions, the growth of the online community. Um, but but yeah, so far as the goal is not have too many like new projects, but just make sure we do the projects to the best of our abilities and don't lose focus on keeping the main things the main things. Just like you need to do as an athlete. There's sponsorships, there's a lot of distractions, but in the end of the day, the most important thing is like the training, the nutrition, and the sleep. And if you can dial in on those things, and for me, that's like the team, the product, and the systems that we have in place. And if I can make sure we focus on those, I know we'll be heading forward.
Love it. Andre, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you. Keep up the amazing work. I'm not surprised at all at the success you're having and the mindset that you're approaching it every day with in these new shoes. So yeah, keep on crushing it.
Thank you. And also thanks to you for having me on. And you all serve as a big inspiration for me. There's not a lot of people in this space that I look up to from a business perspective, but mostly from also a human perspective. So just keep doing what you do, and I'm looking forward to following it, and perhaps we'll collaborate on something one day, or at least just I'll come over one day for a podcast or in person and check out your space. And also just I've learned a lot from following you and listening to your podcast. So thanks for everything that you do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andre.